Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, this is another one of these bonus episodes that we've been putting out the last few weeks because it's award season. This is my favorite time of the year. This is better than Christmas for me. This is I'm so excited. I love reading, listening to everything I possibly can because the Academy Awards are very close. The Oscars, my favorite day of the year. So I'm going to do a special bonus episode about the 97th Academy Awards, which are coming up very, very soon. And especially we have Netflix with some good contenders in this award ceremony. Good representation as always. Netflix always end up having a couple of big contenders going out there. So this is going to be me talking a little bit about the Academy Awards coming up, what Netflix have got out there, my sort of predictions, my odds, what I think is going to win some of the big awards. This is going to be a little bit of a rambling. So thanks for joining me. As always, I can't spoil anything for this. Usually I say pause, come back later. We've got spoilers. There's no spoilers yet because the Academy Awards are a few days away. They are on the 2nd of March 2025 this year in America, which is the 3rd of March in Australia, the Monday in Australia. And they're going to be at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood, LA. So during the gala, the AMPAS are going to present the Academy Awards, or the Oscars, in 23 categories this year, honouring films that were released in 2024. In America, the show is going to be televised on ABC and streamed on Hulu. So obviously ABC owned by Disney and Hulu owned by Disney as well. And this is going to be the first Academy Awards that are going to be broadcast as, together, as well as linear broadcast, as well as a streaming broadcast too. The host this year is comedian and podcaster Conan O'Brien, and this is his first hosting duty. So I'm excited to see how he goes. Jimmy Kimmel has done a great job over the last few years. I'm excited to see how Conan goes this year. His sense of humor is probably a little bit more dry than Jimmy's, so it'll be good. And obviously, if you've been following along, the SAG Awards were on Netflix again this year. I've done a couple of episodes on that one. I'm excited to talk a little bit about the Academy Awards. This is the culmination of this whole award season. This is everything together, the BAFTAs. This is one of the seasons that's been the most unpredictable, I think. There's winners. Anyone could win this, to be honest. These big awards, anyone could win. So hopefully you're going to jump on board, listen to my predictions, listen to my thoughts. This is a Netflix show. We cover Netflix original films, so we've got to start off and talk about Netflix nominations this year. And again, it's tricky. In this show, we generally just cover the Netflix original worldwide sort of shows. Oh, sorry, not shows, but films. And this, again, Netflix have 18 nominations this year. A big haul of nominations. And 13 of those are for Emilia Perez, which at the awards is classified as a Netflix distributed film. However, across the world, it's isn't distributed by Netflix. It's in Australia where I host this show from. Netflix don't have the rights for this film. I have done a bonus episode on Emilia Perez though because I knew the Academy Awards were coming up, but it's okay. We're going to classify those as Netflix noms. So let's have a look at the 18 nominations that Netflix have this year. So the biggest nomination obviously is for Best Picture for Emilia Perez, and as I said, we've done a bonus episode on Emilia Perez. We've done a bit of coverage of the SAG Awards too, and sort of mentioned how, unfortunately, there's been a bit of controversy for Emilia Perez and those 13 nominations. Early on, when the nominations came out, everyone was a little bit like, "Oh, here we go." Unfortunately, because of Carla Sofia Gascon and some of the tweets from the past, I'm predicting possibly it may win 2 of those 13, but we'll get into that as we go. So, Best Picture, Emilia Perez is nominated there. It's also nominated for Best Director for Jacques Audiard, Best Actress for Carla Sofia Gascon. That's probably the award you can probably say is not going to happen. Zoe Saldana is nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Emilia Perez. I think that's a lock-in. I think you've got to say that's going to be one of the awards that Emilia Perez wins for. It is nominated also for a Best Adapted Screenplay. It's not going to win there. It's unfortunately. It is also nominated for Best International Film for France. It is a Spanish language film, but it's nominated for France. It's not going to win there either. Some other nominations. We've got Wallace and Gromit, The Vengeance of Most Fowl. That's nominated for Best Animated Feature Film, so that's a good one too. Best Documentary Short, Netflix has The Only Girl in the Orchestra nominated. It also has a nomination for Best Live Action Short for Anuja, which is a Hindi language film. May try and get a bonus episode out before the awards for that one. We'll see how we go. I've got 2 young kids. It is hard to do this show as it is, but I want to try and get an episode out for that one. Emilia Perez is also nominated for Best Music Original Score, as well as Best Music Original Song for 2 songs, for El Mal and also for Mi Camino. I have a feeling El Mal is going to win the best song, but we'll see how we go. Netflix also has another nomination in the Best Music Original Song category for the song The Journey from the film The 688, which did very well streaming numbers wise. This is a Diane Warren song. So if you've followed any of the Academy Awards over the past 20 years, you'd understand that Diane Warren is one of the most nominated people for Academy Awards because of her songs. Emilia Perez is also nominated for Best Sound, as well as Best Cinematography. Another Netflix original in USA is a film called Maria, which is also nominated for Best Cinematography. And then to round it out, Emilia Perez is nominated for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, as well as Best Film Editing. So out of all of those nominations, I feel like Netflix may get one for Zoe Saldana for Best Supporting Actress for Emilia Perez, as well as Best Original Song for El Mal from Emilia Perez too. Other than that, I can't really see Netflix walking away with too much. But let's talk about the rest of the awards. I'm going to go through some of the big categories, some of the big film awards, my thoughts, and then sort of finish off with some Best Picture rankings from me, as well as, I guess, some highlights from 2024. What are some other films that I've really enjoyed this year that didn't necessarily get some of the award recognition? So we're going to kick off with Best Animated Feature. I love my animated films. I really do. And most people, if you've listened to the shows over the years, you'd know that animation to me, I'm a Disney shareholder, yeah? So animation's a big thing for me. We're going to talk through the nominees. So for Best Animated Feature, we have Inside Out 2, we have Wallace and Gromit, The Vengeance of Most Fowl, which is our Netflix recognition in this category. We also have Memoir of a Snail, which is a very close to home film. This is an Australian, especially Melbourne. We're based in Melbourne, our show here. This is a stop motion film from Melbourne. Adam Elliott, who is not shy to the Oscar ceremony. He won a while ago for Harvey Crumpet from memory. He did do another stop motion film called Mary and Max from memory. I'm doing a lot of this off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure Harvey Crumpet, he won for an animated short. I'm pretty sure I won an Oscar for that. But this is a Melbourne centric film. It's nominated for Best Picture, which is great to see, as well as Flow, which has done pretty well on the award circuit for not only an animated film but an international feature too. So Flow, as well as finally The Wild Robot, the big DreamWorks picture of the year. This is a bit of an interesting category because Inside Out 2, that was the biggest film of 2024. That made the most money worldwide at the box office. And I think odds-wise, it's the least favorite to win, which is pretty wild because it is a very, very good film. And I think Wild Robot, has it in the bag for this category, but Flow, it did so well at some of the big awards, especially the Golden Globes. I don't want to be too negative, but I did not like that film at all. It's about a cat, and there's no dialogue. Very ordinary. I don't know. I'm not sure why there's such great recognition for this film, because a lot of the other films on there much better. But The Wild Robot's my pick for that one. Let's move on. Best International Feature. I haven't seen many of these films, to be honest. We've got The Girl with the Needle. We've got The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Flow again, as well as Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here. This is interesting. Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here are, and most people, if you're listening to this show, would know, are nominated for Best Feature Film. It's tricky. I think Emilia Perez was the clear runaway favourite for a long time until a lot of the controversy, which I mentioned before. I think I'm Still Here is going to take it, to be honest. I'm going to talk about it later. That's one of the films that I have not been able to see, so I'm very interested to see how that goes. Let's look at the Best Adapted Screenplay. This is a very interesting one, but I think it's quite clear who's going to win this one. For the nominees, we've got Sing Sing. I haven't seen that yet. Coleman Domingo. I hear it's great about prison. I think is it the Sing Sing prison. I'm very interested to see it. A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan film. We've got Amelia Perez, we've got Nickel Boys, and we have Conclave. Based on the SAG Awards, I think Conclave has to win this award. I think it's got to be a clear favourite. I think Conclave is going to get this. It's based on, is it a Michael Connolly novel? I'm probably going to be wrong here. It's based on one of those pulp sort of fiction novel stories. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. It's like one of those novels. I haven't read the book, but the film is, I'm sure, is similar to the novel, where it's really short chapters, a bit like a James Patterson sort of style. Short chapters, cliffhangers at the end of each 2-page chapter, and that's how the film plays. But I think Conclave will win that one. Then we've got Best Original Screenplay. Interesting one, September 5. I've only seen the trailer for that film, but super keen to see it. We've also got The Brutalist. We've got A Real Pain, The Substance, and Anora. I really hope Anora wins this one. I'm going to talk about the best films later, so I'm not going to give away too much, but I hope Anora wins Best Original Screenplay for Sean Baker. I guess you've got to call him an auteur. Directing, editing, come on, writing his own stories. I really hope this is one of the awards that he does win for this one. Let's get into the acting ones. The acting awards, we start with Best Supporting Actress. We've got Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. We've got Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Ariana Grande for Wicked, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. I already gave away before that I think this is Zoe Saldana's award. She's cleaned up in the lead up to these awards. I feel like this is that recognition this film will get, and I think that she deserves it. She's very good in that film. Let's lock that one in. I think that's a lock in, as well as Best Supporting Actor. I think these are the two awards that are probably the clearest and easiest to predict. For Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. We have Guy Pearce for The Brutalist. I really would like him to win this. I honestly would love Guy Pearce to win this. He's got no chance, but he was so good in that film. We've got Yura Borisov for Anora, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, as well as Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain. If you followed the awards circuit, you know this is Kieran Culkin's award to win. And I think Best Supporting Actor and Actress, these are lock-ins. The rest of them, I think there's a little bit of unpredictability, to be honest. I think it's going to be hard to predict some of these, but let's talk about them. Let's talk about Best Actress. So for Best Actress, we have Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez. Completely written herself out of it. I think Netflix have said, they've kept her out of all publicity for the nominations and things like that. Hasn't been at the SAG, hasn't been at the BAFTAs, those sorts of things. But I believe Netflix are flying her out from Spain for the Academy Awards. Probably going to be the only time she ever gets nominated for Best Actress, so it'll be nice to see her in the crowd. We've also got Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. No chance. We'll put that out there now. We've got Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. I don't think has any chance. It really comes down to Mikey Madison for Anora and Demi Moore for The Substance. It'll be interesting. Like Demi Moore has a complete sort of support from Hollywood, you feel, for this award. It's a bit like Michelle Yeoh from a few years ago, the generational performer who is being recognized for the peak and for the whole career almost. So you feel like that Demi Moore will win this. She won it at the SAG Awards. I think she's probably going to win it here. I would love Mikey Madison. Mikey Madison was an early favorite for this award. She's great in Anora, but I think Demi Moore will take this out. If we talk about Best Actor, we've got Coleman Domingo nominated for Sing Sing. We have Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, as well as Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. This is probably the most interesting race almost for one of these awards. I think we saw Timothy Chalamet, I always stuff up his name, but we saw him win at the SAG Awards, which to me was a huge surprise. I feel like Adrian Brody was sitting there and the camera kept going back to him. I felt like he was just as surprised. It was interesting to see his face. I feel like Adrian Brody's been the front runner the whole time, and to see Timothy Chalamet to come out and take this one, his speech was interesting. If you heard me talk about it on the SAG Award show, but this is close, and it's very close, too close to call almost. I'm probably going to stick with Adrian Brody just based on this. It's not just like, I know that the SAG members have one of the biggest population votes towards the Academy Awards as well, but I feel like Adrian Brody might get a bit of the European vote and the international vote a little bit for this award. So I'm going to stick with Adrian Brody for this one. Then we get into the last few. We've got Best Director. Best Director is interesting because realistically, you think about it, if you're not nominated for Best Director, yes, it's happened in the past, but you've got a good chance if you knock off Best Director or get a nomination at least, that you're going to get the Best Picture. So our Best Director nominees are James Mangold for A Complete Unknown. We've got Coralie Fargo for The Substance, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, and Sean Baker for Anora. It's been interesting, like the last couple of weeks, Sean Baker has cleaned up at a lot of the awards, which is hopefully good stead for him heading into Best Director. And if he takes out Best Director, you've got to hope that Anora is going to be close to getting Best Picture, but it's very close. It's too hard to call almost. I think, Conclave took away the Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards recently, and that sort of pushes up the odds a little bit for Conclave, but you've got to look at this Best Director list and go, Conclave doesn't have Best Director in there. So you've got to feel that this is between Brady Corbett for The Brutalist and Sean Baker for Anora. Based on odds, based on previous years, you've got to go with Sean Baker for Anora. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I would love to see Sean Baker take this one away. So that's where we're at. But we've got to finish with our final category, that I'm going to cover on this show. Obviously, I haven't really touched on the crafts or the short features or the documentaries or anything this year. But we're going to talk about Best Picture. So if we go Best Picture, if we're looking at the ranking of the odds, currently a couple of days out from the Academy Awards, we have, and I'm going to read the odds out for this one, I think. I've got to. So at $101, The Substance, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, and Dune Part 2. So realistically, those 4 films have no chance whatsoever of winning Best Picture. Then we come in with Amelia Perez at $51. As I've said throughout the show, written itself off. That's gone. Wicked's at $41, so you'd say, cool, no chance at all either. And that leaves us with the final 4. The final 4, we've got A Complete Unknown, which is paying $26. And maybe if you're listening in America, this doesn't make sense. In Australia, our odds are based for every dollar that you back, that's what you get back. So if I put $1 down for A Complete Unknown and it wins, I get $26 back. So sort of a very outsider for A Complete Unknown. That leaves us with the final 3. So The Brutalist, which has led at various stages, is paying $7.50. So a bit of an outsider. And then that leaves us with Conclave at $3.50 and Anora at $1.50. Those odds for Anora are so short for Best Picture. I find that very interesting because I feel like the awards and the voting throughout these categories throughout the last few ceremonies has been all over the place. So $1.50 for Anora, I'd say if I'm a betting person, those odds are a bit too short to even put money on, because I'd go a roughie. I'd go, cool, let's chuck a couple of bucks on something else, to be honest, just to try and get some money, to get some good odds, because that's very short. I'm very surprised. I think Oppenheimer last year was paying like $1.01. So clear favorite. $1.50 is a bit further out, but I don't know. I'd love Anora to win. Would really love Anora to win, and it's interesting to see that it's favorite at the moment. So let's get into my Best Picture rankings. I think let's go from 10 to 1. This year is a little bit different. Most years I try to see, or I have seen, all 10 films. I've got 2 young kids now, which makes it very hard. So there's a couple of films I haven't actually seen. I've seen 8 of the 10, so pretty decent effort, I would say. So the first 2 films I'll just talk about, just to say, because I'm not going to rank them. So I haven't seen I'm Still Here. Was very keen to see it. I just couldn't get to see it. It had a very late release here in Australia. It's only been out the last week or so, very limited session time, so I haven't been able to see it. Very keen to see it at some stage, so nice to get a Brazilian film in there for Best Picture. And then the other one, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say I haven't seen, is Dune Part 2. The day of I pre-ordered the steelbook of this film. I picked it up, I purchased it, I've got it sitting there. I loved the first film, and I am sure that I would have this film high on my list, but I just haven't got to it. It's one of those films, it's 2.5 hours, it's daunting to be like, cool, I need to sit down. I've loved the books. I loved the version by David Lynch. So I'm so sad in myself that I haven't watched it, because I reckon this would probably get up into my top 5 of these 10 nominees, but I just haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it. So the 8 films of the top 10 that I have seen, we're going to go from backwards order. My number 8 film out of these 8 that I haven't mentioned is Wicked. I'm sad. I am sad because I was so excited to see this film. I saw the show on Broadway in New York. I love the music. The promotion and the merchandising leading up to this film had me so hyped. And knowing that this film is a two-parter, that the build of this film was, I'd heard, Defying Gravity, the song that everyone knows from this production, is going to be the cliffhanger that leads us into part 2. And unfortunately for me, it did not land one little bit. And that left me with a real sour taste in my mouth. And I walked away and I'm like, I sat in bed for like 2 hours after I watched it, listening to, on Spotify, all the different versions of Defying Gravity. And I'm like, I've heard so many better, the television show Glee, the version of Defying Gravity was better on that. And that's how disappointed I was with Wicked. It's not the worst film. I think I still gave it 3.5 out of 5, but super disappointed. So I hope part 2 picks it up. It's tricky because there's no defying songs in the second part as good as the first part. So I'm interested to see how they go with the second part. I do believe, from what I've heard, there are some original songs in the second part. So that might help next year at the Academy Awards to get a few more nominations, especially in the original song component. My number 7 film out of this list, and this feels a little bit rough, but number 7 I've got I'm Still Here, the Bob Dylan film, because I am all about Timothée Chalamet. Since I saw him in Call Me By Your Name, I was in love. This guy, he can do no wrong. I will watch anything he's in. I would listen to him read I'd watch him read the Yellow Pages. He's great in this. But this film, it just felt like listening to Bob Dylan's greatest hits, going from one song to another with very little in between. It was performed well, made sense, all that sort of stuff. It was just a feel-good sort of film that the general population can sit back, enjoy, and go, cool, that was a good film. Very American film as well. So 7 on the list for me. Number 6 for me, I've got Conclave. I gave Conclave a 4 out of 5. Really good film, a really accessible thriller for a movie-going audience. It plays every beat you would expect from the novel. And the idea of doubt throughout the film was so well done. It looked so good. It was really well done. Really impressive film. Well done to Conclave. For me, I had Emilia Perez at number 5. This is probably a little bit controversial because I know there's a lot of people that hate this film, but you look at the film for a film, don't look at the outside factors of who's in the film, don't look at the outside factors of how disappointed the Mexican community were about a French guy making a Spanish film. I enjoyed it still. Yes, some of the lyrics, the dialogue, outrageously bad, but it was upbeat, it was fun, it was well performed, it looked good, the leads all did a great job. I enjoyed that film. I thought it was good. For me, number 4, we're going Nickel Boys. Nickel Boys, I like this film. Yes, it's super depressing, especially the content the whole way through. But the first person perspective that they used throughout, it made me feel like I was discovering the form of film almost for the first time again. It was such an achievement. It felt so original. It felt so new. Credit for that film and how they made that film. I thought that was really good. Now we're heading into the top 3. For me, number 3, I've got The Substance at number 3. The first half hour of this film, I was mesmerized. I was sitting there going, cool, I need to start taking notes. I need to think about how I could teach this film at school. Like just the shots, the editing, it was so good. And then I quickly changed my mind and realized I cannot teach this film. It is too full on. It is so full on, but so original. And it had me thinking about this film for so long after it had finished. I couldn't take my eyes off Margaret Qualley throughout, and the back end of this film, it just turned into this complete gore fest that I wasn't expecting. Really, really good film, The Substance. I'm so glad that it actually got a nomination for Best Picture, so that was really good. My final 2, and this is a massive toss-up. This is so hard to say which one's which. We've obviously got The Brutalist and Anora left, so I'm going to put Anora in at number 2. It's hard because I would say that this is the most fun I've had in a cinema in such a long time. MJ, who used to sit here and do a lot of these episodes with me, we went to the premiere in Melbourne in Australia where we're at this cinema, and every screen in this cinema was showing the film. The vibe, the lines to get food and drinks, it was so good. You go into the cinema and I sat there on the edge of my seat that whole film, laughing and enjoying about what an entertaining film this was. This film deserves all the credit it gets. It is literally so funny, so emotional, and that final scene, I still think I watched that film like 4 months ago, and I still think about that ending and what that ending means. I've changed my interpretation of what it means. In that car, you've got Annie sitting there on top of a character, the windscreen wipers with the snow, what does it mean? What does that scene mean? Oh, it's such a good film. But I'm going to put The Brutalist at number one. I understand that this is a long film. I understand a lot of people haven't seen this film. I understand a lot of people think this film is pretentious, but I was blown away by the craft of this film. It's long. It's epic. And this is a quote from the film. It is intellectually stimulating. And I can't wait to rewatch this film to pick up on things that I wouldn't have seen the first time around. And I'd appreciate more, because to me, like when I'm sitting there in a cinema watching this, I was just trying to work out, how is that shot done? That's incredible. The sound's great. It was even I saw this with MJ. I spoke about MJ before. I saw this with MJ, and during the intermission we just went outside for some fresh air, and I was just like, we couldn't even talk about it because we didn't know where it was going to go in the second half. And for this film to be made for under $10 million and deliver, I guess, what is a movie-going experience, I've got to put it up here at the top. It was a movie-going experience. So that's what we're about, is going to the cinema and enjoying film. And I really enjoyed this film. I do have to say that Brady Corbett listened to a few podcasts where I guess it's a bit disappointing where he's so blatant in explaining what his film's trying to be about. And that's a little bit frustrating, because I do like the idea of interpreting myself and thinking my own thoughts about the film. So I'm sure he will learn as he keeps going. But I want to talk a little bit, before we finish off, we've talked about the Oscars, I want to talk about some other films that I enjoyed this year that didn't get nominated for anything. So let's go through a couple of films that these are my films to check out from 2024. You may not have seen, may not have heard of, but are worth watching. So I've got to put in here, I saw The TV Glow. What a film. The nostalgia for TV. It was well made, and it got me thinking of Buffy the whole time. And I loved Buffy. And during the week, Sarah Michelle Gellar from Buffy, she put out on her socials that they're working on a new version. That's such a good thing to hear. But this film, stylistically, really, really well. I saw The TV Glow. Good film. A documentary from HBO. It was called The Truth vs. Alex Jones. I know a lot of people probably don't like Alex Jones. I get that. But this documentary did a really good job of showing the pain that one person can impose on people through lies. And it was also good to see a documentary, and this is probably a Netflix thing, but this is a HBO documentary, but it was nice to see that this documentary, it wasn't fleshed out over multiple episodes. It was good to see. It was a nice documentary, feature length, well done, really good. Monkey Man, Dev Patel. It's like his Indian version of John Wick. Violence, gore, all that sort of stuff on screen. Dev Patel directed it, he starred in it, he performed really well in it. Some super cool shots, worth checking out. Sleeping Dogs is another film I'm going to mention. I'm sure most people haven't seen this film, but it's a bit of a pun, but it's a little dog of a Russell Crowe film. That was a surprise for me. I was not expecting to be as engaged as I was in this like B-grade sort of movie. It was filmed in Melbourne, our hometown, and I was just on board the whole way. I thought it was really well done. Check that one out. Challenges. Most people have seen Challenges. I think most people are probably disappointed that at least the soundtrack wasn't nominated for an award. But the soundtrack is almost worth watching this film. The sexual tension throughout that's played through tennis and sport, and the editing, obviously, and the music and the soundtrack, super engaging. Great film. This is a TV film / special. Bluey, the Australian TV show, the animated kids show. There was a special, I guess, first big episode that was almost like a feature called Bluey the Sign. It was just sweet all round, worth watching. Furiosa, another Australian connection here, but Fury Road was a film that it's hard to top. But this Furiosa was still executed with such pace and action, and George Miller does it like no other. It's well worth checking out. Don't listen to the reviews, just watch it for yourself. If you want to watch a fast-paced action film, worth watching. Kind of Kindness. This is a Yorgos Lanthimos film. This is his follow-up to last year's award favourite, Poor Things. Didn't come out too long after Poor Things, realistically, and it's like a bunch of vignettes, these interconnected stories. Really had me engaged. Saw it at the cinema with my wife. Probably don't ask her about it, about the trip to the cinema to see it. She was on her phone within the first 10 minutes and had to leave. So I enjoyed that film. She didn't. It's like Poor Things. If you didn't like Poor Things, don't watch this one. But if you like Poor Things, you might enjoy this one as well. Another documentary that I'm going to mention is Casa Bonita Mi Amor, which is on Paramount Plus. This is Matt and Trey, the creators behind South Park. This is a part of their multi-production $1 million deal with Paramount. And this is a documentary of their purchase of a restaurant called Casa Bonita, which is a Mexican-themed restaurant that sort of ran into disrepair. And this is about the money they pumped and the time, I guess, that they pumped to have into it to have this place reopened. Just a really, really well-made documentary, worth watching. Inside Out 2, yes, it was nominated for Best Animated Feature, but this is the biggest film of 2024, and it's almost wiped from awards existence. That's sad. Like, it's so well made. It's a great follow-up to the original. People went to the cinemas to see this film, so it needs some recognition there. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney+. Check it out. Another streaming thing that you can add to your catalog. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. This is on Netflix. This is one of the rare reboots that did it right. Eddie Murphy was great. We did do a bonus episode on this film as well, so if you haven't listened to that, please do, or watch the film, because it was well done. If you like the original Beverly Hills Cop films, you'll like this one too. And then speaking of, I guess, parts of that's the fourth film, but this is a trilogy. We're talking about a trilogy. Maxine, the final film in the Ty West trilogy. Maxine, I was probably disappointed with his final film. It was still a fun night out at the movies. The other two films, if you haven't seen X and you haven't seen Pearl, watch those before watching this. But it's such a good trilogy of films. I'm just putting this in there mainly for the closure of the trilogy. It was still well done. A Family Affair, another Netflix original film I was probably surprised that I enjoyed. This is a Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron led rom-com. Type of film I wouldn't usually like, but I found this warming and funny. And again, like, we've got a bonus episode, so please listen to it if you have seen the film. Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan film. This is his film of the year. Nepotism galore. Or was it neo-nepotism? That's not nepotism. What's the babytism? What's the one where you put your kids... I can't remember. You get the idea. His daughter plays the lead musician in this film, but it's an effective film. Even if the trailer gives away too much, watch it. It's worth watching. The twist isn't fantastic like a lot of his films, but it's still worth watching. I've got to mention Alien Romulus. It's on Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure, but this is a refreshing look at the Alien franchise. It's nice to see a young crew running this ship and adding life into what was almost becoming a tired franchise. So well done there. Sequels again, or part of a franchise. Beetlejuice. Good popcorn fun. I saw this twice at the cinemas. I went out to see it, and then we had a school excursion where I went and saw it again. So I saw this twice. It was nice to see the fun and the characters brought to life for this modern audience. So that was good as well. This is a bit of a left of field one, but Piece by Piece, animated film. This one's probably one of the best animated films I watched this year. It's the infectious music of Pharrell Williams, his story, all the musicians that he's worked with Lego. It's just a winner all round. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend going to see that one. A couple more to go. Speak No Evil, horror film or thriller, almost film. This is based on a European film. I haven't seen the original, but this remake, and I feel like the original is even better, but this remake was tense throughout, really well made. This is a controversial one, probably the most controversial one here, but Joker Folie à Deux. This was better than the first Joker for me. That's probably surprising and probably a little bit out there for most people, but this is a courtroom drama musical that was so effective, and Todd Phillips, the director, he took control to give this big sort of F off to all the DC fanboys who almost ruined the discourse around the first film, to go, hey, this is what I want you to say. You've got to give credit to him. He may have destroyed his career by making this film, but it's worth it. I can't not say that this was one of my favorite films of the year. Finally, we've got to finish with a Netflix film. This is the Netflix's biggest Christmas film of 2024, called Carry On. This is Taron Egerton in a airport almost thriller that really shouldn't have worked, but it did. Watch it. If you haven't watched it, watch it. You don't even need to be in the Christmas spirit to watch it. It's like a Die Hard style Christmas film. We did do a bonus episode on this one too. So if you have seen it, haven't listened, give us a download, give us a listen, find it. It's a good episode. Other than that, I'm done. This is 2024. This is a wrap. This is a wrap on the Oscars. This is a wrap on my favorite films of the last 12 months. I'm looking forward to watching the ceremony. I hope some of my predictions and thoughts are going to turn out all right. We are on socials. We're on Twitter. X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Give us a like. Give us a follow if you can. Give us 5 stars on your favorite podcasting platform. I'm going to put a post out for this one. What are your predictions? Who's going to win? What are your thoughts? Let us know. we have our regular episodes on Monday, still ready to go. 400 plus Netflix original films. I don't think there's any other podcast or any other person probably. No one at Netflix has watched more Netflix original films than me. I would put money on it. So if you want to hear my thoughts, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a search. As always, thanks for joining me. And I'll see you Monday for our regular episode.